Hi, welcome back, College Writing. Hope you are persevering as we go through these. Hope these videos are making a real difference in your life. We're going to be looking now at what does our Turabian book say about spelling. Well, Turabian says in the United States to model your spelling on American usage and be consistent. You might be taking this class in another country besides the United States, but since the school is located in the United States, please use American spelling and be consistent. However, there's one exception to that rule. If you quote something, you want to actually quote it the way that it is quoted in your source. Turabian says we should use the Merriam-Webster's dictionary to spell words. Remember, I talked earlier that we use that dictionary to look up what part of speech it is. This is the dictionary we use to figure out how to spell words. But what do you do if the dictionary has two ways of spelling a word? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. If the Merriam-Webster's dictionary uses the word or, then it suggests that you use the first idea that's presented, but be consistent. So here we have the word donut. It's a noun. It is sometimes spelled with the word dough and then nut. Sometimes it's spelled D-O in the word nut. And so we would use the first spelling and we'd be consistent. Here's an example. Researchers indicated that youth ministers ate 2 times as many donuts as children's ministers, but the type of donut preferred by both groups was glazed donuts. You see the spelling is consistent there. As long as you're consistent with your spelling, you're probably going to be on the right track. Use spell check on your computers. However, do not trust it. Here's an example of what happened in a text message. Your mom and I are going to divorce next month. What? Why? Call me, please. I wrote Disney and this phone changed it. We are going to Disney. Spell check is not perfect. Use it, but do not trust it. Proofread your paper, even the footnotes. When we talk about plurals in Turabian, the general rule is when we have something that's singular, that's a noun, we would add an S. Book becomes books. When we have words that end in certain letters, CH, J, S, SH, X, or Z, then we add an ES. Church becomes churches with an E and an S. What do we do with a compound word? Well, that's a great question. Compound words are made up of 2 nouns, and you want to make the last noun plural, usually by adding an S or an ES. So we have a book and keeper, and we put them together, we have bookkeepers, not books keeper. Bookkeeper is the correct way to spell that. What do we do when we have a special case of a compound word, like a prepositional phrase or an adjective making the main noun plural? We have sisters-in-law, not sister-in-laws. See where the S is different in those 2 words? What do we do with letters or numbers? Now, a lot of people want to put an apostrophe in there, but it is not correct. Look at this example. SUM's students' records show that Susie made all A's during her time at the school during the 1980s. Do you see the A and the S? There's no apostrophe. Do you see the 1980s and the S with no apostrophe? This is the way Turabian says to do it. I've got an apostrophe next to SUM because SUM is showing ownership there. What about abbreviations? What do we do when an abbreviation needs to be turned into a plural? Well, typically we are going to add S to it. For example, URLs. If you just have one URL, but if you've got multiple, you simply add the S. Look at the example. Dr. Frady taught her class how to use 2 URLs in class, and she explained the name Universal Resource Locator. What if the singular ends in a period? You're going to put the S before the period. If you have 2 volumes of books that you're talking about and you want to abbreviate it, it becomes VOLS period for volumes. What about possessives? You want to form the possessive of most singular nouns and proper nouns, including those that end with S or X or Z, by adding the apostrophe and the S. This is showing possession. Turabian's rules. Turabian owns the rules. Dr. Frady's classes. I'm the boss of the classes. The student's book. The student actually is the owner of that book. Here are some special cases with possessives according to Turabian. If a singular noun ends with an S, the United States. The United States' role in the war was small. So we have the United States with an S. We're trying to show possession, so we simply add the apostrophe after the S in states. What about compound words that show possession? Let's say a man had one sister-in-law who owned a business. Here's how you would express that. The man's sister-in-law's business was going bankrupt. So we take the word law, apostrophe, and S. What do we do when we've got things that are a little bit more complicated where the compound is used as an adjective? If the adjective comes before the noun, use a hyphen. Dr. Frady asked an open-ended question in class. Here the adjective open comes before the noun question. But Turabian says, if the adjective comes after the noun, do not use a hyphen. Most of Dr. Frady's questions were open-ended. See the difference? Here, the adjective open came after the noun questions. Take a glance at this slide again, because you use a hyphen in some situations. You do not use a hyphen in other situations. How do we write the word email? If for some reason you're ever asked to write the word email in a paper, Turabian has a very specific way to do it. You write the letter E hyphen mail. I don't know how else to tell you that. That's the Turabian way. Turabian doesn't want it any other way. It's the word E hyphen mail. Email is the way that we spell it in the Turabian way. Now, to be honest, I can't imagine that you're ever going to write a paper for SUM that you have to write the word email, but if you do, now you know what to do. Now we're going to have the opportunity to listen to some students share about their writing. I think that this is one of the most important things that we can do together, because they're going to be sharing their screens with you. They're going to be showing you information about their writing. You know, as you're just beginning your journey with us here at SUM, I've said this before, and I just want to encourage you, if you don't feel like you're a really strong writer, pay attention to these videos. Make sure that you're doing the reading assignments that go with these classes. Make sure that you're participating in the discussion board. Can I just tell you, the book that we've chosen for this class, it really breaks down all these elements that we just don't have time to discuss in these videos. So I really encourage you, really get in there and read the book. Get in there and really do those discussion boards. Talking to other students, it can be so helpful. Make sure that you're following the directions for what your syllabus says for this class. And remember, while you might see my face, I may or may not be the actual professor that you're having meetings with or that you're sending emails to. But whoever that person is, please do be sure to keep in contact with them. If they ask you to meet them in a Zoom meeting, make sure that you go to that Zoom meeting. If you have questions you don't understand, make sure that you're talking to your cohort advisor or you're talking to your professor. Please look at the syllabus, look at the information in Canvas, do those reading assignments, take those quizzes, do things on time. You can see how quickly we go in these videos, that we're going and covering a lot of information. It's really your job as a student, not only to watch the videos, but to do all of that other outside classwork. Okay, that's all the encouragement I have for this video. I do want you to pay attention to the students in the next video, as they're going to be sharing some things that I think will really, really help you in your journey here at SUM as a student. So pay attention, and I certainly hope that you enjoy it. Okay, welcome back. Dr. Frady here. We were talking about spell check. We're going to first have Caleb share his screen, and he's going to show us what his word processor does for spell check, and maybe see if he can kind of walk us through exactly what you do. So Caleb, you have a different kind of program than some students have. What's your word processor? Just kind of walk us through how you use spell check.
Yes, so I use, I type all my papers on a Mac, and I have Pages, which is on there. You can also download Microsoft Word and use that as well. Whenever I go through and do my spell check, I just go to Edit, and then there's a little drop-down box over here. You can go spelling and grammar. And there's a bunch of different tabs on the Pages one that you can use. There's one for show spelling and grammar. There's one that says check document now. I have mine set to where every time I type, it'll let me know if something is correct or incorrect. Check grammar with spelling, and then correct spelling automatically.
All right, great. What I want you to do is just go into the body of your paper. So get out of the spell check. I want you to just put in like some random letters into a word so we can actually see that your spell check, what it does, what it suggests, how it helps you out. So it looks like he's going to do something in the word. He's really messed up the word season. Okay, one thing I noticed right off the bat, his computer puts a wavy red line under it. That's his computer's way of saying, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here. So go ahead and we're going to pretend that he doesn't know he's misspelled that, and go ahead and pretend you're getting ready to edit your paper and just take us through what you would do and how you would use your spell check, Caleb.
Okay, so normally what I would do in a situation like this, if I go ahead and see it on my paper, I will right click on it. And as you can see right here, it says no guesses found. And then on this as well, you can either say ignore spelling altogether. So maybe there is a word that you know is correct and your computer for some reason just doesn't acknowledge it. And this happens a lot whenever you're doing writing in Hebrew or in Greek. You can just say ignore spelling and it'll ignore that for the rest of your paper. Learn spelling, you can do that. And then from here on out in your database, anytime you use that word, it'll actually put that in all of your papers. And then you can look up whatever this word is and see what it means as well.
So your particular program doesn't have any idea what that word is. That word is so messed up. Your program is like, I don't even know what this is. So let's take a few of those letters out so that maybe there's just one letter that's off. And let's see if your spell checker catches and comes up with an idea. He meant to write season. He's made just one little error. Let's have him do a spell check. Try to do a spell check of your whole paper and see if it catches it, if you don't mind. Just take us through how that happens. So he's going down, he's going into spelling and grammar. He's asking his computer to check the document. And so his computer has underlined in red that particular word saying, hey, I don't think this word is correct. And as he goes down, keep going down because I noticed something in your bibliography. It's also underlined the name of two people. So that's a great example. Spell check doesn't often know how to spell people's first or last names. So don't always trust your spell check. Let's go back up to the word season that we had Caleb mess up on purpose. And speak us through exactly what you're doing on your screen, Caleb.
Sure. So at this point, now that I know that that word is incorrect, I'm just right-clicking on the word. And again, it just kind of gives you this little pop-up right here, and there's different things you can do. You can see right off the bat, it's recognizing you meant to type season. And so you can click on that, and it'll automatically change it for you.
Do you guys see what he did? It was an automatic thing. Now the compute, you can stop sharing your screen. Computers are wonderful. They can do so many things for us, but you've really got to use the brain that God gave you while you're interpreting, what is my computer trying to say to me? Estelle, would you share your screen and let's look at what your word processor does for spell check, because hers is a little different than Caleb's. So as Estelle is sharing her screen, you're going to notice that her screen looks really different than his. For Estelle, when she wants to do a spell check, she's going to go over into review. So there's a little review tab at the top of her page. And on the far left side of her screen it actually says ABC with a check under it. So Estelle, let's go ahead and click on spell check and see if your computer thinks that you've spelled anything incorrectly. So she's going to click on that and she's asking her computer. So on Estelle's screen, an actual box pops up. Her computer feels like that she has misspelled this word. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. Can you pronounce it?
Ivorians.
Ivorians. Okay.
Yeah.
The computer says, wait a minute, I don't think this is a real word. But Estelle, it is a real word, right?
Yes, please.
So Estelle is simply going to click on the box at the top that says ignore once. She's going to tell her computer, I'm going to ignore your suggestion that I change this word because it's a real word. Now, Estelle has got her computer set up to look for spelling and grammar. And so her computer is suggesting that the word minimum should be capitalized. But Estelle knows, you know what? It's not supposed to be capitalized. Thanks for the suggestion, but no thanks. So she's also going to click ignore once. See how she's in control of what she does there. And it says that the spelling and grammar is complete, so she can click OK. Now here's something that I want to tell you. Spell check does not catch everything. Estelle, you can stop sharing your screen for just a second. You know, in the English language, we have the word there. Caleb, do you know how to spell there?
It depends on what we're talking about.
That's exactly right. There are 3 different theirs. There's when you say, look over there, which is T-H-E-R-E, or you can say, they are as a contraction, which is T-A, how do we do that? T-H-E, T-H-E.
T-H-E-R-E. They are T-H-E-Y.
Yes.
This A-R-E.
Very good. Very good. We have there if we're pointing to a direction. We have there when we're showing possession. And we have they are put together as there, but it sounds just the same. Most computers will not catch that particular thing. I want to share my screen with you guys and show you briefly some information that Turabian has to say about spelling. Turabian says when you don't know how to spell a word, you use the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. So you say, oh, Dr. Frady, there's so many dictionaries. Merriam-Webster's dictionary is the dictionary to use. Turabian helps us understand that when we have a compound word, that we spell it by making sure that we're paying attention to how the word is put together. In this example, we have a noun, book, and a noun, keeper. If we put that together, we have bookkeepers, not books keeper. So we put together the compound word made of 2 nouns. You want to make the compound word into a plural. You make the last noun plural, adding an S or an ES. When we have compound words with a prepositional phrase or an adjective like sisters-in-law, it's not sister-in-laws. We have some special cases with numbers. When we have letters or numbers, we simply put an S. So here's a sentence. SUM's records show that Juan made all A's during his time at the school during the 1980s. Now, I know it probably feels like you should put an apostrophe here and an apostrophe there, but you don't. Turabian says that when we are using the plural of capital letters and numbers, that we simply add an S. Well, you guys have done a great job. I really appreciate your time today. The next video, we're going to be hearing from some people in ministry about writing, so pay attention. I hope that you enjoy it. All right, here we go. I'm going to start off this module. You know, you were looking at me earlier in a video talking about what Turabian says about spelling. Turabian has some very, very specific rules about spelling. One of the rules Turabian has about spelling, and this is no offense or no disrespect is meant for other countries. Turabian says, spell it the American way. The North American way, not the South American way. Make sure
North America.
That's right, as though you are a citizen of the USA. So I have some examples here, and I know that some students outside of the United States learn to spell things in the British way. There's a whole long history about how when people left England and came to the United States and we were forming the United States, about all the struggles they had with language and words. Bottom line, Turabian says we use American spelling. So let's look at some examples. The British spelling of color has an extra U in it. But when you see on the USA side, it does not have that U. For some reason, you're writing the word color, you want to make sure that you spelled it the way that people spell it in the United States. The word flavor also got that extra U in it. If you're writing a Turabian paper, make sure that you're spelling it according to American spelling. Humor, you can see the difference is they've added that U in there. Labor, you can see there's added U in there. And then neighbor, they've added the U and taken out one of the O's. Here's the thing that I've noticed. Some students outside of the United States, Professor Salas, their actual computer comes programmed to do British spelling because maybe they got their computer from India or maybe they bought their computer from Great Britain. There's a setting within your computer, students, and you'll have to figure out where it is because it's your responsibility to learn how to use your computer, use that word processor. But you might be able to go to references. It might be in layout. It could be anywhere. Different computers put it in different places. Do your best to set your spell check to check spelling according to standard English. And if you've got a grammar check, ask your computer to use that as well. I've encouraged students, Professor Salas, sometimes they need to look at a YouTube video, like they just type it into their word processor or just Google it. How do I find spell check for my computer?
I would I would strongly suggest that. I'm a YouTube fan for things of that sort because there's visuals there and it'll literally it might be a 1 or 2 minute video that teaches you how to change that setting, and then you don't have to worry about it after that. The rest of your papers will be changed to that setting as well.
As you can see, students, all of the words that are written in the British spelling, do you see that squiggly red line? That's my computer's way of trying to say, hey, I think there's something wrong here.
Yes.
My computer's trying to help me out. I did this on purpose for this video, but you can see that my computer is letting me know something's up. Turabian also tells us we must be consistent in our spelling. Turabian has one dictionary that the Turabian book suggests, and it's the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Now, let's say we look up a particular word, donut. I happen to love donuts. I think they're delicious. Chocolate's my favorite.
Yum, yum.
When we look up the word donut, the dictionary tells us it is a noun. It tells us the syllables in the word. It has pronunciation. Then it gives us the variant of how to spell it. There are 2 ways to spell donut. It also gives us the definition. So then you're left with a choice. Do I spell it donut or do I spell it donut? Well, you can look on the screen, the word in red, that's the first spelling given. That is the spelling that you should use. However, if for some reason you forget to use that first spelling and you use the second spelling, you must be consistent. Dr. Salas, I said Dr. Salas, maybe I'm prophesying. Professor,
amen.
What's your favorite donut?
I love Krispy Kreme donuts with sprinkles. So vanilla with sprinkles. It's my favorite.
That's yummy. So
it's very yummy. But I want to add something here that, it's a blessing because when I was growing up, the internet came out when we started, like, households began to be able to purchase the internet maybe when I was in 9th grade. So before that, we had to go to the library and get a dictionary, or we had to have purchase a dictionary in our home. So it was a little bit more work. But now with the World Wide Web at the tip of your hands, you have access to all this information. And then I was going to add, Dr. Frady, that when you're looking up these words, it gives you examples of how to use them in sentences. So what a wealth of resources the internet provides us to help us, master these words.
Definitely. And if you're going to use the dictionary, Turabian says use the Merriam-Webster's.
Yes.
Dictionary. And it's got even more tools than I even showed in this video just now. Let's move on. We will have Professor Salas take us into this section.
I know that for me growing up, I wasn't the best speller. I'm always growing in that area. And sometimes I sometimes catch my own errors. But I know, like, now when I receive papers from students, I'll see all the little squiggly lines, the red squiggly lines, like Dr. Frady mentioned, on the paper. And what that is the word processing program, whether it's Google Docs or Microsoft Word or any other, they let you know when there's a spelling error. So that's a blessing, because now you know something's wrong with that word. I need to go check it out. And the computer will actually, if you right click on the word in your word processing program, you can look at the different spellings that it offers, and you have to choose which one is the most appropriate. But I noticed that you can't always rely 100% on spell check. It's a great blessing. It works most of the time, but sometimes it'll give you other words that are not the word that you're trying to use in your paper. So you have to be careful. After all, this is a computer. I call it like a robot almost. The smartest, we are the smart people. We're the ones who get to look at this. We're the ones who ultimately have to make the decision about how to change the word and fix the spelling. So very, very important. So make sure that not only do you use the spell checker in your word processing program, but also check it for yourself. If you have to go look it up in the dictionary, I tend to do that. I will not only use the spell checker, but I'll go on to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and I will look up the word and just make sure that I'm not just spelling it correctly, but I'm using the correct word, the word that I'm intending for my paper. That's
right. Don't trust spell check. Proof
don't trust it.
Paper.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then next, we've been talking about plurals. So a lot of students can be confused by this, but I think it's because growing up, many of us, we've formed some bad habits, and I'll include myself in that. We've formed some bad habits. Maybe we learned or we mislearned a rule growing up. For example, you don't put an apostrophe when you're talking about grades like A's and B's. You don't need an apostrophe. When you're talking about years like the 1990s, that's when I grew up. It was the best time of my life. And when you're talking about the 1990s or the 1980s, you don't put an apostrophe there as well. So I think a lot of times though, students already have that habit formed. So it's really hard to break them of that habit. But know that when it comes to grades, years or eras, even when we're talking about abbreviations like URLs, you don't put the apostrophe. And so that just takes a little bit of practice, but you can get that over time. You'll start to remember that. And then the last thing that Trabian talks about is the word email. It's a compound word beginning with E. And whenever I teach this to students, they're usually they're very surprised. Some of them are so used to writing email with E-M-A-I-L, no dash, or they'll do capital E-M-A-I-L. They have these different variations of the word, but Trabian gives us this correct spelling, and it has a dash in it. So it's capital E dash mail. And that is the correct way to write email. So that you'll find that useful, because you're probably going to use that word a lot. And no matter what you do, what ministry you're in, what career you go into, you're probably going to use that word a lot. It's a big part of everyday life.
It's so amazing to me that that's such a teeny thing, but the Trabian book has an answer. Doesn't it kind of remind you of another book that has a lot of answers, Professor Salas?
It sure does. It sure does. Are you talking about the Bible, Dr. Frady?
I certainly am. The Bible, I was reading just earlier today. I was looking at the 23rd Psalm again. I've read it so many times, and it just reminded me that the Lord is my shepherd. And students, as you're taking this class and other classes, I want you to be reminded the Lord is your shepherd. He cares for you. He has good plans for you. You guys take care.